Good morning, everyone. It is 8 a.m. sharp, and we are here, and it is Tuesday. That's Jiggy Biggie Tuesday. Welcome, everybody. It's going to be an extraordinary week. Vulnerability is our training on Friday. If you want to join us, all the downloads, millionaires, billionaires, entrepreneurs, everyone is available on the playbook. If you haven't downloaded the playbook, it's a must. Download the playbook, share it, like it. There's all the trainings on there, and it's free, so check it out. Thank you so much. I'm going to pin here where to get in touch with me, right here, dmeltzer.com, david@dmeltzer.com, 949-298-2905. Mr. Cole, welcome. Carrie Cole, good to see you, my friend. Thank you for joining us as well. We're having such a great morning here. Let's take a few questions. Teams revving up. You can have 3 people go live with you. That's new, just so you know. 3 people can go live with you once. How do you get back to center after making a mistake? Well, first of all, understanding that a mistake is an indicator that you have a lesson to learn. A mistake is not something to accelerate in the wrong direction through, over, under, around. A mistake is not something to feel guilty about, resentful, or offended by. A mistake should make you feel good because you are progressing into the right direction. But a mistake is just an indicator, turn signal, that you have a lesson to learn to get to somewhere better, a better position, or make someone else better, or make your situation better. How to come up with ideas, and execute on those ideas. Well, first of all, know that an idea is a possibility. And so meditation, peace, quiet is a great place to find those ideas. The minute you find an idea, it's a possibility. When you get clarity, balance, and focus on that idea, when you institute the mathematical equation of luck, which is attention plus intention equals the coincidences you want, when you do that, you will become inspired. You will clear the interference between you and that you're connected with. And once you have the inspiration, the possibility of the idea becomes a probability. Then you create, utilizing this AAA strategy, get alignment, take action, and prepare for adjustment. You go ahead and take that strategy, discipline, and awareness to execute on the probability to make it your perspective. Erica, I'll be with you in a couple minutes here. Let's take a couple more questions. We'll get her on at 8:05. So thank you so much. I see you there. What was the lesson from your LA trip yesterday? Well, I went on the road for the first time yesterday, socially distancing with extraordinary people like Dan Fleischman, Vered, Nassim, Sugar Ray Leonard, the Champ. And thank you so much, Champ, for inviting us over. That was wonderful. The network advisors, the great Brian Scher, Justin Giangrande, our friends at Authentic Brands as well. It was a great day up in LA, and I learned that still, whether you're at home or as a student on the road, student of your calendar is crucial. Skinny Confidential, I apologize. Michael and Lauren Bostic, incredible dear friends of mine. If you haven't caught the Skinny Confidential, him and her, crazy, beautiful people, unbelievable podcast. So, student of the calendar made us execute. We were able to do what some people can't do in a month, in one day. And we still got home to watch my son's baseball game and get home and tuck him in. And I had a speech at 9:00. So we were on the enjoyment of the consistent, persistent pursuit of our potential yesterday. Little 4 a.m. till 10 p.m. day of all productive, accessible, and gracious time. All right, Erica is here. Let me bring Erica Keswin on, best-selling author and strategist. So wonderful, exciting to have her join here. Here we go. Hopefully this will work. If you want to join me for trainings or the playbook, hey, there we are. Hi, Erica.
How are you?
I'm terrific. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you.
Very nice to see you. Thanks for joining me. I'm so absolutely excited to talk about your new book, The Rituals Roadmap. It's right up my alley, The Human Way to Transform Everyday Routines into Workshop Magic. Now, I'm a huge routine person, if you don't know. And I believe in having two routines is my secret sauce, an adaptable routine and a set routine. Because I have a saying that if you want to make God laugh, come up with a really well-planned routine and he'll make sure he screws it up for you.
Exactly.
The word ritual uh, is interesting to me. So I'd love to understand the energy and perspective of a ritual roadmap to your routines in the workplace, and what are the inner workings, the characteristics of a ritual that you should apply to this aspect of a workplace routine.
Sure. So I think it's a great place to start. I mean, what is a ritual? People will say, how does it differ from a habit or a rule or a protocol? So here's my definition. It has three parts. The first is a ritual is something to which we assign a certain amount of intention or meaning around. The second is that there's repetition. So it happens with a regular cadence. It could be every day, every morning, once a week, once a month, once a year. The third part, though, is something I hadn't thought about until I started studying the science of rituals, and that is a ritual is something that goes beyond its practical purpose. So what do I mean by that? I'm sitting in Manhattan in my New York apartment. If my lights went out and I couldn't see anymore and I lit a candle to be able to see you, that's not a ritual. But if I light a candle, let's say every day at 5 o'clock to signify the transition between the work day and the home day, that is a ritual. There's meaning behind it, but there's no practical purpose. I'm not lighting the candle so that I can see. And for the record, those transition rituals are becoming pretty popular since many of us are working and living in the same space.
Absolutely. And then there is a relationship factor that you bring almost a scientific approach to, of understanding how the relativity of the workplace environment applies to rituals and the routines. How does that relationship component, number one, apply to those rituals and routines? But more importantly, during COVID, the relationships have been separate or strained. How has that affected the routines in the workplace?
Yeah, I think we need them even more. So when I started studying rituals at work, some people said, well, why are you even doing that? I think about rituals at home in my morning coffee or my meditation. And what I found when I wrote my first book, Bring Your Human to Work, was that many of the leaders were actually using rituals as a tool to help employees feel more connected to each other, to clients and customers, and even to the brand overall. And so why is that? There's data that shows that rituals impact the bottom line in a positive way. And I call it the 3 Ps of rituals. So number one, rituals give us psychological safety and a sense of belonging and connection, which, to your point, especially when we're all disconnected and we're not physically co-located, we need that sense of belonging even more. The second P is an opportunity to connect to purpose and values, and you add those two together, and I know this is right up your alley, that leads to increased performance, human performance and team performance. So when I looked at rituals at work, and this roadmap, they come up in a variety of places. So let's start at the beginning of the roadmap. I mean, when you onboard new employees, especially in the middle of a pandemic when you're not meeting people, what are those rituals that you can do when you onboard people that gives employees that sense of connection and belonging even on that very first day? Rituals around meetings, all these Zoom meetings we're doing. What are rituals that you can have with your team that makes people feel safe and connected? And for the record, the data shows that when people work for teams where they feel that sense of psychological safety, high trust organizations, they're 50% more productive and 47% more collaborative. So this is important, not just because it makes us feel good, but it's important for the bottom line of our businesses.
It's so important to understand that consistency, whether it's every day, every week, every month, or every year, and the comfort that comes from the efficiency. I always say it's like a clean snow mountain. And if you have tracks that you go down, you get faster and faster, and it's easier and easier if you keep going down the same pass, which is applied to that ritual understanding. But one of the other things in a ritual for me is you can create in the workplace your own personal rituals that people, it's almost like you can create your own temple that people can show up to. Meaning, one of the rituals that I created that is, I think created the most productivity for me is a 5:20 ritual, right? I try to keep all my phone calls to 5 minutes, all my meetings to 20, where it's now become kind of a Meltzer ritual where people who interact in the virtual or live workplace know, or ask me to do an interview, they know that, that's how I work, and they fit within the context of my ritual. How can we create rituals, I think, not only in the workplace, but in our personal lives, that can create the effectiveness, the efficiencies, and the statistical success? How do we start to create those rituals? Because, it's one thing to talk about it and dream about it, but I love to get people started. So how can we start creating those rituals, especially in the workplace?
I love it. So, that's why I called the book Rituals Roadmap. How can we all design a roadmap that works for us? And I do think when we talk about work and home, they're so interconnected right now. So there's two kinds of roadmaps.
I'm in a closet, for God's sake. I get it.
Although I would be in the closet, but thankfully my husband is away because he has taken our home office, which is a whole other story. Yeah. So there's two kinds of roadmaps. The first is in your own life, whether, in terms of how you approach your day, your work, and at home. You could have rituals in the morning around meals. More important today, more than ever, is rituals to get you to take a break, that we're sitting in front of these screens all day long. So one woman shared the other day, I thought of it when you said the 5 and 20. She has something called 20 by 20 by 20. Every 20 minutes, she takes a 20-second break, 20 feet from her computer, to get her up, to get her moving. And at work, we need to think about sort of that employee experience. So how do you start? I figured out a question that I would ask people to help them think about either rituals that they had that they didn't realize were rituals, or how to begin creating rituals. And the question is, at home, in your own life, here's the question, and maybe you can answer it. And I already have an idea of one thing you might say, but okay, David, what do you do in your life that makes you feel most like you? And when you answer that, that is an amazing opportunity to think about where you would begin creating rituals. Maybe even the 5 and 20, like you said, is a ritual. So I'll have you answer that in a second. But on the work front, when I asked, let's say, the head of HR at Chipotle, Marisa Andrada, who's in the book, I would say to all the companies, okay, Marisa, when do employees at Chipotle feel most Chipotle-ish? And all of a sudden they would think about the answer to that. And so just, as a little sneak peek in the book, the minute I asked that question, she said, you know what? Employees at Chipotle feel Chipotle-ish every day at 10:15 a.m. By the way, Chipotle opens at 10:30, and I never knew so many people were eating burritos at 10:30 in the morning, but they are. That all of the employees, after they're done chopping up the lettuce and making the guac, they all sit down and have a meal together before the store opens. And that is one of their rituals, and when they feel most connected to each other and the brand. So whether it's at work, you can ask yourself, if you work for a company or you own your company, when do employees feel most like your company? That's a great place to start. And to what I asked you, David, when in your life do you feel most like you?
Yeah, for me personally, it's when I take inventory of my values every day in meditation. So that's when I find my baseline, and I use that baseline all day long to try to stay at center of who I am. So, utilizing a ritual of self-awareness of, okay, here's my highest frequency. This is when I feel most like me. I want to feel most like me all day long. And then for a company, though, we have Monday morning meetings at 10 a.m. Where we go through as a ritual, being as a collective consciousness, the student of our calendar practice, which is probably the biggest thing that I teach people to change their lives, is to pay attention and give intention to the activities they have planned, don't have planned in their sleep. So I think those are the two areas where I feel, most like me. And I think, wow, we just so everyone knows, Erica is also a top 100 Marshall Goldsmith coach with me. She's an extraordinary coach. We didn't get time this time, but we will do other shows together to talk about the spaghetti platform. I just want to thank you so much for, number one, just explaining rituals and how that roadmap can help us transform our everyday routines and create the workplace magic that we want. I'm sure people can find your book everywhere. Is there a
I
particular?
have one right here.
Uh, that's beautiful. That's awesome. I should have one right here too. Um, anyway, it's at Erica S1 ESWIN. I'm sure all online. But where else can people reach you at besides your Instagram?
Sure. You can find me on my website, which is just my name, ericakeswin.com. Has my, I have a podcast called Left to Our Own Devices, and you can hear more about the book. I have a monthly-ish newsletter, and this was great, David. I feel like we've been separated at birth, because
Yeah.
one of the questions I ask people is, does your calendar reflect your values? And so we need to continue this conversation. I loved it.
Anyone that loves your calendar, I love. So I know I'm a weirdo for that reason, but it's so great to get to know you even better. And let's do more. I got plenty of shows to put you on, and I'm going to start listening to your podcast as well. So thank you.
All right. Bye, David. Take
Bye.
care.
Have a great day.
Okay.
Back onto our routine. Erica Keswin. I'm a name butcher there. Erica Keswin, KESWIN, at Erica Keswin, and ericakeswin.com. It's all right there. And her book is Ritual Roadmap, Ways to Transform Everyday Routines into the Workplace Magic. Obviously, very cool stuff. And we're working on Instagram here, and wonderful guests. Those Marshall Goldsmith Top 100 coaches, what a blessing that's been to be a part of that group and to meet people like Erica and others. We had just extraordinary people in that group. Someone asked, what should I do with $10,000? First, figure out your timing and risk tolerance, and then align it with what you want to invest in and make sure it mirrors that. As we are moving forward, I'll take a quick question and then get Jamie on here. Maybe I'm going to bring Jamie on first. Sorry. All right. Jamie Schmidt, co-founder and color and entrepreneur and founder of Schmidt's Naturals. Hello, Jamie. Welcome to my IG. Good to see you.
Yeah, nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. That is a beautiful background. Where are you?
Hey, thanks. I just moved. I'm in Southern California in the Rancho Santa Fe area. It's my new house. So yeah, I've been here about a week. So Wi-Fi is a little spotty, but I think I found the perfect spot for this.
I used to live there and moved up to Orange County. Now I have a home right not too far from you in South Mission Beach.
Oh,
so
nice.
I have to get together. I think Rancho Santa Fe is absolutely one of the nicest places in America, if not the world. So anyway, I want to talk about your book. This is book day. Supermaker, Crafting Business on Your Own Terms. One of the things when people talk about doing things on their own terms is that they don't know their own terms. It's like the kid who just asked me, I have $10,000, what should I invest in? And they don't know what their timing and risk tolerance is. What are the steps that we need to do to know what our terms are so we can live on our own terms?
Yeah, I mean, the main message behind that is this is your playbook. When I started my business, I didn't study a bunch of books and business plans and take courses around it. It was really just following my intuition, coming up with an idea and never looking too far ahead. So that's kind of the message behind on your own terms. I don't think there's one way to do business. I don't think there's one type of entrepreneur. And my story, is a great illustration of that. And I just want others to feel empowered to jump into entrepreneurship.
And for that, motivation is needed, right? There's a difference between motivation and inspiration. We talked before with Erica about people getting started. What do you think the biggest challenge for people, as you want them to live on their own terms, to be entrepreneurs, to create their own experiences you have without maybe taking on, other people's energies and beliefs? How do we get people started? Because it seems, especially during the pandemic as well, that I get a lot of the clients I have and kids and mentoring I do, they just don't know how to get started.
Yeah, I mean, the first is really what you're doing and making sure what you're jumping into is something that you actually want to be doing. I think that's what's going to carry you forward through all the trials and tribulations of running a business. Obviously, when you're entering a market, you have to make sure there's an actual opportunity there, because loving what you're doing, being passionate about your product is one thing, but if the market need doesn't exist, that's a problem. Not every product is going to be entirely innovative. For example, my business was deodorant, right? Not a new concept, but I did it in a different way. And that's the key is, finding that opportunity in the market that you're trying to get into that just hasn't been looked at yet. For example, for me, it was a different ingredient profile. It was branding and messaging that hadn't been done yet around deodorant. And, you know, once you start to see the momentum, you are going to hear the outside perspectives and opinions. And I think it really is important to take feedback seriously, but look for patterns in that, because we can't incorporate every piece of feedback that we get. You know, it's more about where are the redundancies, what are we hearing a lot of, and then sort of trying to, you know, incorporate that feedback, but being selective.
You know, one of the things that you're an expert on, which I love, I have a saying, there's a million great ideas out there, but it doesn't mean anything unless you can make money from it or create a business, you know, and so many people get caught up into the idea phase, and you really are helping, especially young entrepreneurs, turn their passion projects into a profitable business. And yet, you know, you had a 9-figure exit with a deodorant company, and people are confused because they look at you and they'll say, wait a second, Jamie, you were passionate about deodorant? And they don't seem to make the connection of how our passions can be converted to profit, and that the actual products don't necessarily represent our passion. It's the creativity of what we're doing that manifests or materialize that product. So how do you explain to especially younger entrepreneurs the passion connected to profit relationship?
Yeah, I love that. I think it's really, for me, it was about hearing customer feedback. I didn't realize I was passionate about deodorant, you know, until I started getting out to the markets and meeting customers face to face and just hearing their enthusiasm. The passion piece, the impact that you're having in other people's lives. And then it doesn't hurt to be your own boss, right? Like, like who's not passionate about, you know, managing their own schedule and setting their own agenda?
What do you think about, you know, I tell people all the time that one of the superpowers I love to mentor people and train them on and empower them with is to learn to love what they're doing. And that infuses the light, the love, and the lessons in what they're doing, which then makes them passionate about as odd as things as deodorant. But I find that too many people don't take the time to find the light, the love, and the lessons in what they're doing, and to persistently and consistently pursue that. Because I know my own wife has told me, you're just lucky because you've always loved what you do. You're passionate about what you do since you graduated law school, and including in law school. And I decided in law school, because I absolutely hated school and was already in it for a long time, I decided, instead of hating school, why don't you find out how you can love learning or love topics? And I switched my entire paradigm to this idea of learning to love what I do. How much of that passion is innately that you just have a love for deodorant, or how much is it that I've learned to love what I do?
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely speaking my language. That's one piece of advice I give people who are caught in a career or a job that they just aren't loving, or, you know, not feeling like it's the right thing. You have to find something in there that you can take away from this experience and realize that it is, you know, temporary. You can choose. Let's say you're waiting tables and the work, you just don't like the work. There's something there that's valuable that you can use in your next job. And I think that's really key. And then when it comes down to actually starting your business, to answer your question, I think it's having something that you're making, whether it's marketing messaging, right? It doesn't have to be like actually crafting something with your hands. It can be the way we create a social media post, just something that feels like you enjoy what you're doing and that you're creating something that other people might not be able to create.
Last question, real quick, on that profit side. You know, it's one thing to learn to love what we do, but there's a pragmatic world we live in. That's why my motto is make a lot of money first, then help a lot of people, then have a lot of fun. Do you find that people that have a better inclination of passion and, you know, creativity have a difficult time reconciling that with making money, or don't know how to make money? What is it that stops, you know, these incredibly passionate people that have a desire that they must be what they can be, from being able to articulate and execute on the quantitative value that they're creating?
I think there's like that whole imposter syndrome piece where people think like, I'm not worthy of this, or who do I think I am trying to start a business like this? And I mean, when I started the deodorant company, you know, at farmers markets, I certainly never anticipated a 9-figure acquisition by Unilever. So it took some, you know, getting used to that and feeling comfortable with that and feeling like I deserved it, and that, you know, like that I was like a real entrepreneur. And I think that that's the purpose of my book, is to like put out that messaging that there's not one type of entrepreneur. I give you the tools to do it your way, but also with, you know, really tangible advice and tips on how to grow a consumer products business. So
Yeah, and it's much needed, especially because you have your own foundation, the Dream Project, the Entrepreneur Dream Project, where you're helping young entrepreneurs who I think are going to save and change the world. I make and invest a lot of my time and money into young entrepreneurs because I believe, you know, that really is the indicator of our future. These great minds that are not only creative, but can create abundance for others by making a lot of money, helping a lot of people. Everything from deodorant to solar panels to environmental machinery. I see it all. Where can people find you? I know at Jamie Schmidt, BT, it ends with the book Super Maker, crafting business on your own terms. Hold it up one more time for me if you have it there.
yeah.
There we go. So where can people find you in the book?
The book is basically anywhere books are sold. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it in all the indies. Not hard to find. And then me, all the socials, you know, Twitter, Instagram, it's just Jamie Schmidt. My name's spelled Jaime. It's a little different. Clubhouse too. That's something I'm really fanatical about right now. It's a good place to find me. And I know you're on there too, David. I know that we kind of shared enthusiasm.
I know, I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, I love seeing you. And let's do some more together. You're an incredible entrepreneur.
Definitely.
And more importantly, in my heart, I love that you're giving back. And there needs to be more milestone women entrepreneur like yourself that my 3 teenage daughters can look up to and look past and say, Jamie can do it. I can do it, and even do it better. And that's really a legacy that is so important beyond the great exit that you had and the foundation that you've created. So thank you so much for being a great milestone for so many people. I appreciate you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate your words.
Awesome.
Care.
Take care. Good to see you on
Bye.
Clubhouse.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right, the great Jamie Schmidt. And if you want to learn how from inception to execution, someone that has built it, right? I always say, if you want to get somewhere, find the person that's where you want to be and ask them for directions. Jamie gives you directions in Supermaker, crafting business on your own terms. So check it out wherever books are sold, and you can reach directly out to her. She's on all the platforms, and talk to her on Clubhouse at Jamie, Jaime Schmidt, Schmidt, extraordinary entrepreneur. All right, we're moving right along. It's book day. Everybody got books, and here we go. My next friend is here, and he is an incredible guy. I actually have his book here, and you can't beat it. And it's Jotham Stein. Even CEOs get fired. That's why I'm not a CEO anymore. I have hired a CEO and president to run my company, and it's so nice to know that they can't fire me. But they can be fired. Training is on vulnerability this Friday. Download the playbook. It has all the trainings, the billionaires, millionaires, entrepreneurs. All your favorites are on there. Learn the playbook to success, the common denominators of success with all of those people, athletes, entertainers, millionaires, billionaires, entrepreneurs, and all my trainings are free. Just download the playbook. Featured on Spotify, Entrepreneur, every platform, Apple, Google, doesn't matter. And if you are looking there, just look at reaching out to me. The one ask I have is take my book for free. Let me send it to you, pay for shipping, sign it, david@dmeltzer.com. Or you can text me and join my text community, which many people like, 949-298-2905. Text me there or email me, david@dmeltzer.com, pinned below. I was looking for Jotham Stein, looking for you. He wrote this book, Even CEOs Get Fired. It's a super book, especially if you're considering a career move, negotiating for a raise, wondering what would happen if an employer was sold or restructured. All the rewards can be great, but there's so many risks that you need both a pragmatic and an energetic background. Justin posted up there, shipmeyourbook.com. Beyond emailing me, shipmeyourbook.com. I'll send you my book, pay for shipping, and get it there. Oh, there's Jotham right there. All right. We got him. I think I've tried to add him there, and he there he is. So I put your book this way. How are you?
Good. I'm great to see you again. I'm sorry it took me a minute or two to get back on the show here. So
No, no problem. You'll get it right. I am just so excited. I've gotten through this, and as a former CEO and former lawyer, wow, there's some great. I wish I would have met you before I went bankrupt. I'll tell you that. There is amazing advice in here. And what inspired you to write the book? Obviously as a lawyer, you're probably seeing some trends, but what are some of those trends that gave you these incredible lessons to share with people in times of transition?
Well, I wrote the book for lawyers, teach lawyers how to represent entrepreneurs and executives. And I always wanted to write a book for the regular person, whether they're the secretary or the newbie coming in or the MBA, or the CEO entrepreneur, everybody. And I wanted to write a breezy book that it's easy read. And so I went out and did that. And it has about 60% of the book is all about protecting yourself and maximizing your returns and all practical legal advice, but in a very breezy way that anybody can read. And then about 40% or maybe a little more is all stories. There are 59 stories that are totally fictional. I wrote them at a Pete's Coffee, but they're repeat stories, repeat events that happen all the time, over and over again, from all different levels. So I hope to teach and to train and to entertain through my.
People are asking what's the name of the book. It's Even CEOs Get Fired. Jotham Stein right here with me. You can get it anywhere the books are sold. But Jotham, one of the other things is interesting is a lot of people, especially lawyers, don't know the powers of stories. And historically, I'm a student of history myself, which is probably why I enjoyed law school. All you're doing is studying history because you learn human nature. But the way that we learn best is through these stories and being able to aggregate, accumulate, adjust stories that have the lessons in it. How difficult is it to create stories in order to effectuate a lesson? Because there's so many good ones in here, and you keep them entertaining and fast and efficient, which I personally, we were talking about rituals. It's aligned with my beliefs. I want to be able to remember the lessons, and I want to be entertained when I learn them. And, you and I both had terrible professors that, could recite facts all day long, but we could not retain them because they weren't delivered in the correct mechanism. How did you learn, or what was the difficulty in finding those stories and creating them to teach the lessons that you learned over, the last 30 or 40 years?
That's a really good question, because I had undergrad and I had in law school these famous professors that I couldn't stand going to class because they didn't keep me awake. I mean, they were terrible, but they were famous because they had invented something or some kind of theory
or worse, written a treatise, or worse, they've written a treatise or something.
Yeah, exactly, which is incredibly boring to read, and then they were boring. And you get this famous professor who's really boring. And I just hated that. So I even tell my son, take a course where the professor is dynamic and keeps you awake. And that's what I tried to do in the 59 stories. They're quick. Some run a page, some run 4 pages. They're in, out, but they get the message across. And I try to have very interesting characters so that people can remember. And the stories, in terms of coming up with the stories, they're fictional, but they're the genre. They've happened over and over again in my career. And I'll use just one example. Multiple times in my career, the wrongdoer, the person that sort of cheated the other person, my client or would-be client, was somebody who stood up at their wedding. And it's unbelievable to think about, but it's happened more than once, and it's happened to both men and women. And it often happens when a tremendous amount of money involved, typically equity, suddenly becomes very valuable, and you have people who are very close to each other that stab each other in the back. So that's not a particularly nice story, but there is a story about that in the book, one of the 59. And it's the takeaway. One of the takeaways from that is protect yourself in employment. Protect your equity. Protect whatever it is that's important to you. Salary. And what I mean by that is get a professional prenuptial agreement, which is nothing more than a severance agreement negotiated on day one. So no matter what happens in your employment, you're protected on the downside when it's time to move on and hopefully do a smooth professional reincarnation.
You know, one of the things that I also love here, and even CEOs get fired, is I have a philosophy that I learned too late. You know, we learn so many things in law, and then everybody thinks that because you're a lawyer, you should be able to protect yourself and know things. You know, when you and I both know what we learned in law school may or may not actually buy us a cup of coffee. But more importantly, ironically, one of the lessons I did not learn in law school, but is so apparent in this book, is just the philosophy of trusting people, but vetting them. Right. And from, you know, all the variants of the prenuptial agreements and other things that you talk about in negotiation and trusted relationships and new relationships and all the variable stories that you have, I just kept saying, how did I not know as a lawyer, and where was this book when I was young to teach me to trust people, but to vet the crap out of them? You know, how important is it, and what mechanisms, you know, give us your top 3 vetting mechanisms that you would utilize in order to effectuate protecting yourself as a general employee or a CEO?
Well, number one, have that good contract, which I refer to as a professional prenuptial agreement. That protects you in all circumstances. But in terms of the non-contracting, sort of what I call personal due diligence, you're calling it vetting. It's exactly the same thing. What I try to tell people is, if you're going to go to a company, try to figure out who your boss is. And what I mean by that is not just do the interviews at the company, if you can, with the people that are there, but if possible, find out who worked for them and now works somewhere else. And if you can, call them up. If you can, Instagram them. If you can, text them. If you can, take them out, at least in post-COVID days and pre-COVID days, you know, for a cup of coffee or a drink, and read between the lines when they say who it is you're working for, because you may not want to work for that person. But if you do want to work for that person, even if they're like the worst person of all time, the worst boss, you might be wanting to use it to get to the next step. But at least you'll go in with your eyes wide open. So I say, to answer your question, top 3, get that professional prenuptial agreement. And number 2, do your due diligence, the personal due diligence. That's really important. And 3rd, know what your goals are. So when you make your decision about what you want to do, you've literally maximized your personal returns. Whatever that means. That might be a stepping stone to the future. That may be like some of your prior people on Instagram, really loving that job. That may be the most important thing to you. It might be protecting, you know, equity or salary or something else. But know what those goals are. Those are the 3 things that I think are most important.
They're wonderful. Just to finish up real quickly, especially because of the pandemic, you talk about professional reincarnation, which I have. My uncle Jerry calls me the Phoenix because I've reincarnated myself so many different times in my career. And people ask me, well, how did you become CEO of the most notable sports agency? I said, if you connected the dots backwards, it'd be impossible to replicate. The only thing I can tell you is I've kept an open mind and surrounded myself with open-minded people, which gave me multiple opportunities that I tried to align my skills, capabilities, knowledge, and desire with. Reincarnation of our professional lives. What are some tips that we talk about in CEOs Get Fired that you think can help people today, especially during the pandemic?
So again, not to repeat myself, the way you transition to that reincarnation, which probably would have helped you when that first company, when you went bankrupt a long time ago, is to give yourself the contract or the employment agreement or the offer letter with the protection in it, so you have a smooth transition to the next job. So for example, imagine you get an agreement that says, if you terminate my employment for any reason other than cause, I get 3 months severance, 6 months severance, and some accelerated equity. You have a nice, smooth runway to think about, to consider your next job and what it is you might want to do. And what I do point out in the book is you should figure out what that is, and you should give it consideration, and you should try other jobs if you're not happy with what you're at. Just do it in a way that protects yourself on the downside, so that, because a startup isn't right for everybody. A big company isn't right for everybody. A mid-level company isn't right for everybody. In certain circumstances, working in Chicago isn't right for everybody. You'd rather be in California. In other circumstances, Alabama is the right place, or Maine. So everybody's different, but you want to be able to explore those possibilities. First, that's outside the contracting, and then inside the contracting is protect yourself, so that you, like yourself, your first experience maybe as a CEO was a bummer. Now you're able to choose your steps one after another to reincarnate. But you want to have that ability to do that. And one of the stories of the books that I was talking about is exactly about that. A very successful and shrewd character gets fired by a boss who wanted a yes woman. She was a woman in this case. The boss was a man. He fires her, even though she was incredibly successful. And actually involves sports. She turns out to be a biathlete. So there are probably very few biathletes, but I'm sure when the readers or people listening were to read this story, they'll remember that story for a long time. And this woman's able to professional reincarnate herself very quickly in 3 or 4 pages in a way that actually happens a lot in Silicon Valley, which is the person doing the firing or standing aside in the entrepreneur world is often the next person, particularly if they're an investor, calling up the successful but fired employee and saying, would you consider my next opportunity? And that's really what it's about, keeping your opportunities alive and a smooth transition to those opportunities.
Absolutely. And what a great guide this is. Even CEOs Get Fired. I love it. I wish I would have read it before. EvenCEOsGetFired.com. Jotham, thank you so much for joining me. Anywhere else people can reach out to you? You're an incredible lawyer as well as an author. Anywhere people can reach out to you beyond the website, EvenCEOsGetFired.com. They can get the book everywhere.
Well, yeah, I can get the book anywhere. Yeah, I have my professional website is www.http://Jotham.com. But EvenCEOsGetFired.com is, I think there's probably a link to the professional one as well. And that talks more about the book. I think there'll be a link to my professional website. And of course, you can click on there and go to Amazon or Barnes and Noble or Powell's or BAM and get the book. Get the book itself from EvenCEOsGetFired.com.
Yeah, if you want lessons and stories to change your life and to give you the protection and situational knowledge that even I didn't have and wish I did, definitely pick this up. I really enjoyed it this weekend, so thank you for sending it to me. Look forward to doing more with you, my friend. Take care, Jotham.
Anytime. It's great to see you again. Have a good one.
Great to see you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for helping so many people.
You're welcome.
We got to ask for help, and that's the type of person you ask for help with. Even CEOs Get Fired. If you are looking for any of those qualities to maximize your return, protect yourself, professional reincarnation, all types of situational knowledge to make sure you go in a better place. And Jotham was also on the playbook. Aired this last weekend, and I read the book. I love it. Anyway, there's my stuff. Let's take some questions here. Email me, david@dmeltzer.com if you need anything, and shipmeyyourbook.com if you want that. I will give you my book, pay for shipping, and sign it for you. What advice would you give to an intern just starting out? Be the first one in, the last one to leave. Ask as many questions as you can. Do as much as you can to increase the enjoyment of the consistent, persistent pursuit of your potential. Explore as many avenues in the business that you can to get as much exposure, not only to the different business units, but the different personalities, the inner workings, the bureaucracy, all the subjective things that they cannot teach you in school that only experience will get you. Try to maximize your time, and most importantly, ask for help. If you're not asking for help, you are missing out. David@dmeltzer.com. Join my text community, 949-298-2905. Free trainings every Friday on vulnerability this week. Check out the playbook. Download it, like it. Ricky Bobby, how are you? I loved having you in there yesterday. Good to see you. Good to see you. Leave those questions here. We are all over here. What makes a good mentee? A good mentee is someone that's willing to do whatever they're asked and also ask for help. So shipmeyyourbook.com. Go ahead there. Get a free book. I'll sign it, send it to you, etc. So cliche, Ricky Bobby. I'm not sure what cliche is. The book or comments that we make. You guys are brighter than I, so let me know. What is the biggest challenge for a beverage CPG startup? Capitalization, not just initial capitalization, but expansive capitalization. What happens in CPG startups is that when you hit chasm, you need an insurgence of capital, and you go from starvation to overwhelm, the big O and the little C, big opportunities and little capabilities. So preparing the financial situation, the credit facilities, the distribution, quality control, supply in order to effectuate the growth of a successful startup is one of the biggest challenges. And then keeping capitalized at the very beginning is another one. So I always think the capitalization, especially of CPG products, is the most difficult because there's a shortage of funds even through success. So because it grows faster than the revenue itself. So initial funding is difficult because there's so many CPG products. Then when you hit chasm and you hit the mark, you need an insurgence of huge capital, and you don't want to have to give up all your equity or your entire company to maintain the success that you have. It happens a lot in alcohol distribution. How does it start your coaching business without having material and feel like I can't walk people through a session? Well, you need to practice. You need to build your content. You need to know your lessons and your stories. You be able to articulate the quantitative value that you're asking for to be greater than what you're asking for. And you can build any type of business if you're able to articulate with credibility the quantitative value of what you're offering to be greater than what you're asking for. How do you keep motivated after multiple failures? I don't believe in failures. I believe in indicating lessons that you need to learn. So what other people see as setbacks, I see as setups if you learn the lesson to get to where you want to go. When do you change your approach given lack of monetary results? Well, if you keep doing the same thing and getting the same results is the definition of insanity. So you need to ask for help. First mechanism would be to know what you want personally, experientially, giving and receiving, and then find someone that sits in the situation that you want to be in and ask them for help, ask them for directions on how to get there. Do not keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. Definition of insanity. Email me, david@dmeltzer.com if you need any help. Ship me your book.com if you want my book. 949-298, pin below, 2905. Go ahead and grab that. Be happy to help you, La Jolla. Can you please help me? Absolutely. Email me, david@dmeltzer.com. I'm going to take one more question, and then we're going to get rolling on a fantastic day. We love it. What excites you most about sports in 2021? I think the fall, and with the teams that I love and having just exciting players to watch, and both of them, playoffs and World Series for baseball with the San Diego Padres and Tatis Jr., and the start of the Super Bowl run for the Los Angeles Chargers with Justin Herbert, and the Super Bowl being in Los Angeles, and I having my office, my podcast studio, and my suite in the new stadium, and that opening up. That excites me the most about sports is what's happening in my own backyard with my own teams. I hate to be selfish on this one, but I am. All right, everyone. If you want my book, it's shipmeyourbook.com. Shipmeyourbook.com. Email me, david@dmeltzer.com, or text me, 949-298-2905. I will sign the book, send it to you, and pay for shipping for you or your friends. I don't care. I'm just here to be of service, empowering over 1 billion people to be happy. That's all I ask. Answering my question just made my day. Thank you. If I didn't answer the question, just email me. It's fine. David@dmeltzer.com. Come on Clubhouse. Come IG Live tomorrow or office hours. There's plenty of places that we can do it. Trainings on Friday. I do Q&A after my vulnerability training on Friday, 11 a.m. Pacific. But the best thing to do, David@dmeltzer.com. While you're at it, grab a free book, have me send it to you, sign it, pay for shipping, shipmeyourbook.com. All right, everyone. I really enjoyed today. It's always a blessing to be here. We will see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. as well. Remember, most importantly, be kind to your future self and do good deeds.